Tally, what are we doing all the way out here? Oh wow, what is that?
I'm not surprised you don't recognise it, Evie, because you're just a noob scrublord who didn't even play Burning Crusade. But that is the Dark Portal.
No, I know that. I'm just surprised you got in the TBC beta is all. After all, you didn't do any bug reporting for Classic, did you?
I ain't no snitch, Evitel. No, I'm just here to enjoy proper World of Warcraft back when it was a real game, for real players.
Wow, I hope I can keep up.
Yeah, well, me too, because this is Warcraft as it's meant to be, okay? I ain't got no time for no casuals. Are you ready to enter the Dark Portal?
Sure thing. Hey, Tally, there's a lot more trees in Outland than I was expecting. And who are the Iron Horde? I'm pretty sure this bit was full of demons before.
Let me just check my map. Uh-oh. Abort the mission, Evitel! We've gone through the wrong Dark Portal.
Tally, Khadgar's asking if I want to start building my garrison. What do I say?
I repeat, we've gone through the wrong Dark Portal. Abandon the beta.
Tally, what's a selfie cam?
Okay, sorry, Evie. It's every man for himself now.
Knowledge is power.
Hello, Internet. Taliesin here, and welcome to the weekly reset. Taliesin and Evitel's Wondrous Wisdom Show in a week where we have a show. And look, I really don't want to be the kind of YouTuber who apologises about not getting videos out for a week or two, because you don't care. You just want to hear some WoW news and excellent grade A 9-carat jokes. I know, but I feel like I genuinely do owe an explanation, because this is the first reset in a couple of weeks, due to me being locked inside an office finally finishing the Covenant campaign's ranked video, which turned out to be an absolute monster. It's 58 minutes long, it's taken over my entire life, thank you patrons for the food money, but it's finished now. Maybe it's already out, maybe it'll come out in a minute, but either way, it is finally done with. I'm wearing my favourite tie to celebrate, and we have got some massive news to bring you, as well as a personal lament that I'd like to share with you. The Burning Crusade Classic Beta is here, which we are absolutely going to talk about, boosts and all, but there's also some interesting Shadowlands topics to talk about as well. I mean, there is genuinely still tuning and hotfixes and whatnot happening all the time. Obviously, congratulations tanks, you might be able to actually stay alive, like, by yourselves for a bit, just by being a tank, which will make a nice change this expansion. Nice one. The main story for Shadowlands this week, though, is probably Blizzard's announcement that they will be changing the way that prepaid game time works in World of Warcraft as a whole. And yeah, you know we're waiting for 9.1 when the main Shadowlands news is also classic news as well, but you need to call it Shadowlands news because otherwise, kind of no Shadowlands news. And so it gives me great pleasure to present to you this bona fide Shadowlands news. And when I say great pleasure, obviously I mean it gives me very little pleasure at all, because this is not happy news. We have decided to alter the game time options available in the Blizzard shop. As of today, the game time options of 30, 90 and 180 days have been removed, and game time is only available as a purchase of 60 days. And first, a quick note to clarify what this isn't, to avoid confusion. This is not subscriptions that you pay for with your credit or debit card. This is not your recurring monthly bill that you have set up. It's not your recurring 6-month bill, if you're lucky enough to have that set up. Nothing is changing with subscriptions. This is for prepaid game time. As in those scratch-off cards that you used to buy from the game store with your allowance because you didn't have a credit or a debit card because you were 12. Those still exist, and if that sounded like I was making fun of it, then I didn't mean to, because it's still the preferred way for players to pay for WoW in quite a few countries, like for example Poland, where it often works out cheaper than having a recurring bill. I'm sure that wasn't part of Blizzard's thinking here at all. Or, more likely for most of us, it's the game time that you buy online, that you can buy with your Battle.net balance, the Battle.net balance that you can build up with in-game gold. Now, that may well have been obvious to you watching this, but it understandably wasn't obvious to a lot of people when this news was announced, including me. So don't feel bad if you didn't understand this, because I don't think Blizzard were very clear in their blue post at all. My instant knee-jerk reaction being, but my 6-month sub though. You can't cancel my 6-month sub. That's so unfair. I've only recently become financially viable enough to be able to afford to pay for my sub in bulk and therefore benefit from the privilege of savings that, paradoxically and definitely unfairly, my adult wealth affords me. F you, Blizz, for snatching my 6-month sub. I like it when I get the free 6-month mounts, and everyone gets angry about the store mounts, but I don't because I just got it free. And someone's always like, well, actually, Taliesin, you didn't get it free because you have to keep a 6-month sub to get it. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. Why don't you go and cry about that a little bit more to my pal Hogrus here because he cares so much. Don't cancel my 6-month sub. That confusion was very quickly resolved for most people, even me. And honestly, I think I know what some of you expect me to do now. I think some of you expect me to do a shitshow segment where we laugh at some of the extreme forum takes, and then I'll come back and defend this decision from Blizz for some reason. But I'm not going to. I mean, I am going to do the forum bit, obviously, because that's what I live for these days. It was a shit show, obviously. This is just scumbaggery. Just another nail in this god-awful expansion's coffin. You know what? Bye. F this game. Only game that you pay monthly, and now even that is not enough. Are they just trying to kill the game now? Obnoxious, unnecessary, and stupid. The trifecta that pervades all Activision Blizzard's endeavours these days. These are comments from people who understand the change, as I've explained it. And in principle, if not expression, I do kind of agree. It does indeed seem like a pretty obnoxious change to me for very little reason. And even though it would be very easy for me to ignore, because it absolutely doesn't affect me or how I play the game personally, I've been talking about it with my community, and it really seems that the only thing any of this is going to achieve is that those of us in the community with the least stable employment situations, or the least predictable schedules, or the least disposable income will find it harder to play this game. And that really sucks. Sorry. If the only game time you can now buy is in 60-day increments, well, that hits people who can only afford to pay $14.99 at any one time, and not $29.99. And yet, you could say, oh well, it's the same money overall, you just have to put it aside every other month. And that's true, but man, I know as much as anyone, when you're in the situation of money being tight, that's not how money works. It hits people who don't know if they'll be able to play the game a month from now, let alone want to. It hits young people who don't have credit or debit cards. And I know you're laughing because you don't think there are any of those, but anecdotally at least, I promise you, there are. It affects gold farmers, not because you need to now save up 2 WoW tokens worth of gold at a time, because that is another misunderstanding about this change, because you don't. If you buy a WoW token for gold on the auction house, you can still exchange that token for 30 days of game time. That is not changing, or if it has, it hasn't changed in-game yet. But many players would buy a token with gold, convert it to Battle.net balance, and then take advantage of the bulk game time deals, 180 days of game time being cheaper than 6 individual 30-day purchases. And it hits people in countries where unfavourable exchange rates means that game time was genuinely and unambiguously the most cost-effective way of paying for the game. At the same time that Blizzard made this announcement, the subscription price in Brazil went up by 25% per month, which is probably not completely unrelated, you know? It hits creators and fan sites who like to give away game time as prizes in competitions, or just because they feel like it. Again, it doesn't affect us because we're not giving you anything. Look, obviously Blizzard have crunched the numbers and concluded that they will make more money doing this, but it comes at the expense of hundreds of people that I've spoken to personally in the last couple of days, of students, people in unsecure employment, and goodness knows there's plenty of that around right now, soldiers on tour, people on disability, and basically any number of other people from any number of different backgrounds. And in a game which is built upon and survives because of its community, that sucks for all of us. And you know what else sucks? Oh, wow, sorry. I'm gonna get a whole load of comments saying I'm being massively negative now, I know, sorry. Waiting for 9.1, or even just the 9.1 PTR. Oh man, what I wouldn't give for a 9.1 PTR. It sucks because it's boring to sit around waiting for content that no one, players or devs, would want to be taking this long to arrive, but it also sucks for a much more important and meaningful reason, which is what I want to talk about here. The tragedy of Shadowlands. Because yeah, you might have seen that phrase in the title of this video, if I put it in the title of this video, and thought to yourself, holy shit, Taliesin, that is some grade A clickbait there, my friend. You might even make Employee of the Month over at Clickbait HQ for this. Congratulations in advance. But it's not clickbait. It's not an exaggeration for effect. It's real. Even if the 9.1 PTR launches minutes after this video goes live, which, Wouldn't be the first time, honestly, but also, it definitely won't. It would still be a tragedy, because I think this huge wait for 9.1, a wait that will be longer than any other wait between the launch of a new expansion and its first major patch, I mean, way, way longer, doesn't just create a bored and restless player base, but will also mean that the opening of Shadowlands is remembered much less fondly than it deserves to be. Because man, I will go on record as saying this, and I've said it plenty on stream, but I honestly rate the opening of Shadowlands to be the best opening patch of any modern World of Warcraft expansion. If Vanilla, TBC and Wrath are classic era, Kata and Mists the middle period, I think the real framework of what a modern expansion is was starting to be laid down from Warlords of Draenor onwards. But honestly, I'd probably put Shadowlands' opening patch ahead of Cataclysms and probably Mists too. And I mean this sincerely and wholeheartedly. For me, Shadowlands is top draw content. I like the setting and the story delivery with Renown and Covenant campaigns. I think the endgame is deep and rich with many different things to do of varying importance and mandatoriness. That's a word, mandatoriness, I've just made it now. And that breadth of often completely optional content has been great in my opinion. Like, Legion was an incredibly special expansion for sure, and was also brilliant all the way through, but what were we doing at this stage in the opening 7.0? Just running emissaries for our ticket into the legendary lottery. Shadowlands' first patch has got way more going on for the discerning endgamer, and it's that quality, which I genuinely think Shadowlands has, which absolutely deserves to be celebrated in my opinion, which makes what is happening now a tragedy. Because of course, at this stage of the expansion, and at the time of writing, Shadowlands has been live for 126 days, 18 weeks, with no end in sight, and I don't need to tell you, but after 126 days of Legion, we weren't still playing the opening patch anymore. 7.1 followed just 6 weeks after launch. By this point of the time frame, we'd been playing 7.1 for 80 days. And yes, I think Shadowlands absolutely compares favourably to Legion in terms of opening patches, but for a real terms comparison, we have to ask, is it better than Legion's opening and 7.1, with Karazhan and the Trial of Valor mini-raid, and 9 more weeks of Suramar story, and then eventually the Nighthold? Because Blizzard are asking it to be by making us play it for as long. But how's this? We didn't even play 7.1 for all that long, because 7.2 with the Broken Shore and the Tomb of Sargeras and class mounts hit 210 days after the release of the expansion. Which means, and I know this because I'm a maths genius and also because I have the internet, that if 9.1 releases on Tuesday the 22nd of June or later, then Legion had 7.0, 7.1 and 7.2 before Shadowlands managed its first major content patch. And however much I like Shadowlands and the excellent job Blizzard have done on it and the praise that they deserve for it, it's not as good as all that content. At all, no. And June the 22nd or later is a scenario that I think most of us would find very likely right now, considering that nice long PTR they said at BlizzConline that they plan for 9.1 is currently nowhere to be seen. There's no comparison. And obviously, Legion is a special case because the release schedule was off the chart and not typical, and only possible because the decision was made to abandon the expansion leading into it halfway through. And also, I don't know if you've noticed, but the world has been a bit of a funny place this last year or so. Every video game release has had problems or delays, or should have had delays. This isn't really Blizzard's fault, and I know that. Absolutely. The human being, Taliesin, doesn't blame anyone for this tragedy. I can completely understand why it's the case, and frankly, I'm in awe that anyone in Team 2 is managing any work at all. It's all I can do to put on clothes in the morning right now. I only half managed that job today, but you know that. But me and everyone else understanding the delay and being sympathetic to it doesn't keep the very good content of 9.0 enjoyable, does it? Scheduling is important for an MMO, and that's why it's a tragedy in the true sense of the word. Because here we have what I consider a tremendous opening to an expansion that should be as well remembered as one of WoW's best, but which even among its biggest fans is doomed to outstay its welcome and be remembered less fondly than it deserves. I hope I'm wrong. Man, maybe Blizz will have already announced the PTR and patch release date by the time I get done editing this video. It wouldn't be the first time Also, they definitely won't. But no one would be happier about being wrong this time than me. Because I'm not trying to farm outrage clicks here, you know I don't care about that. And honestly, I'm not even feeling done with 9.0 yet. I still look forward to logging in most days and pressing buttons. Look, I just like WoW a lot. I don't know if you noticed that. I like playing it. But I think this game deserved a strong and prompt follow-up to its tier-topping opener, like Legion got. And I feel really sorry that events conspired to deny Shadowlands and us, and let's be honest, me, that satisfaction. Of course, another reason we all suspect that July might be, if anything, optimistic for 9.1 is the fact that Burning Crusade Classic Beta launched this week, signalling a release date that it seems might be a whole lot earlier than the expected August or September slot. And it doesn't take a lot of imagination to think maybe TBC has been moved forward a bit specifically to cover for the delay in 9.1. Like, this is pure speculation based on absolutely zero evidence, obviously, but Blizzard obviously didn't expect 9.1 to take this long. They more than likely had intended to have it, if not out by now, then certainly close, with TBC filling that expansion release slot in the final third of the year that OG Classic and retail expansions usually get. But whatever the reason, TBC is well and truly on the way, and maybe that can take some of the weight and keep everyone entertained in enjoyable and fulfilling WoW fun times, and salvage the tragedy of Shadowlands. I've got to say that my interest in TBC has proven a lot bigger than I would have expected. As well as really enjoying my time in the beta so far, I'm really looking forward to it being live and just playing through it all from a story and questing perspective as much as anything else. I mean, it's kind of weird in that respect, isn't it? Whereas much of OG Classic's world is unrecognizable to us in the post-Cataclysm live game, Outland is pretty much exactly the same in TBC Classic as it would be if I went there right now in the Shadowlands. Because it is exactly the same, apart from the models generally, but not always, having a much higher polygon count. The quests are 99% identical. You get a quest marker now, that's different, fair play. And they are quests which, in Hellfire Peninsula especially, I've done like 100 times. So yeah, consider me surprised that I've enjoyed doing them again much, much slower on beta. I don't think I'll be going into TBCC especially hard, but I will definitely be going into TBCC, and I might not have said that 6 months ago. And that means I have a sudden interest in everything that is going on in TBCC, like the changes to drums and paladin seals, real, genuine differences from the game that it's supposed to be recreating, which makes me go, hey, no, what are you doing? I'm #NoChanges, mate. But which players who know a lot more about TBC and, let's be honest, care a lot more about TBC than me, generally approve of. So now I'm like, cool, yeah, fair enough, consider me #some changes, maybe quite a few changes then. Then there's the more controversial stuff, like the new mount that has been data mined, which appears to be part of a deluxe collector's edition for the launch, a mount that was not part of the original game. And I'll be honest, I consider this a much less impactful difference than something that does actually change the gameplay of Burning Crusade, like the drums or the seal changes, but I can also see why it makes people go, even if I don't quite feel the same. I think outraged cries of "Classic has a mount store now" are clickbait bullshit though. I don't see that happening at all. Although I am interested in what happens when Wrath of the Lich King Classic rolls around, which did have a mount store. Like, can players only buy and use the Celestial Steed in Wrath Classic? Or maybe only players who bought the Celestial Steed in Wrath of the Lich King will be able to use it. Delicious, but a discussion for another time. Because the most controversial plan for Burning Crusade Classic so far is, of course, the level 58 boost, which we were told about in BlizzConline will be purchasable for an as yet unconfirmed amount of money, which seems likely to be around $60, which can be paid by Blizzard Balance, which means yes, you can buy it with gold that you made in Shadowlands. Is limited to 1 per account and can't be used on the 2 new races, Draenei or Blood Elf. This has split the community in a pretty predictable way, with generally people who have been playing Classic the most being against it, and generally people who didn't play so much Classic and are keen on coming back for TBC being for it. And honestly, I can see it from both sides. BCCC stands on its own 2 feet as a great game, for sure, But it's pointless to pretend that nostalgia plays no part in the reasons millions of players will want to play it. And for many of them, that means taking a trek through the Dark Portal into Outlands, getting wistful about the shopping music in Hellfire Peninsula, and giving them the option to do that is, I think, pretty reasonable. There are concerns from the classic community that this will ruin the old world leveling experience for them, since there won't be any players to group up with because all the returning players will have used the boost. But I think if someone has come back to the game and used the boost because they didn't want to level, then chances are they wouldn't have come back to the game if they did have to level, so there isn't really a net loss of players there. But I'm sympathetic to the concern, in principle at least. Same with the botting question. Already a major problem in Classic, the fear is that this boost, expensive though it is, could give botters further power to destroy the economy. And yeah, that does sound shit. And although I don't think dismissing this concern with, oh well, there's a massive bot problem in Classic now, is helpful, it does smack a little bit of wanting to treat the symptom rather than the cause. Like, if there's a botting problem, then the problem is bots, not the boost, you know? That said, let's be honest, Blizz clearly don't have the will to spend the amount of resources it would take to sufficiently treat the cause, so deleting a symptom is definitely better than nothing. Personally, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning with the game time options, I'm all about just letting people do it their ways. So I'm philosophically in favour of the boost, but I also think, hey, why not have pristine servers where you can't transfer characters and everyone starts their TBC journey from level 1? Give people that option. Have a server where you can copy characters, but boosts aren't allowed. Give people that option. Have servers, like you're gonna get, where you can copy characters and the boost is allowed. Give people that option to experience TBC how they want on their own terms. And yeah, that's going to cost a bit more money for sure, but I don't know, maybe spend some of that deluxe collector's edition cash on it. Whatever happens, it looks like we might end up covering a bit more Burning Crusade news than I might have expected on this channel. So look forward to all these topics we've brushed past here to be covered in more detail later. I'm actually pretty excited about that. Thanks for joining us today for this slightly weird weekly reset. Evitel is currently getting her eyes lasered, which is why she's not here. And our plan is that we have 3 videos coming out in the next 3 days here, so everything's a little bit crazy. But I wanted to officially say that stuff about the Shadowlands scheduling to get it out there as like an official opinion piece or whatever, so thank you for indulging me. If you liked this video, don't thank us, thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to make all of our work happen. And guys, thank you so much, because without you, there would be a whole lot less Taliesin and Evitel. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Hazelnutty Games. No, my name is Taliesin. From me and Evitel and Anirin too. Until next time, cheerio.